Hey guys, it's Yvette, and here I am with week 3/week 4 of the Fort Worth Fabric Studio Ultimate Picnic Mystery Quilt. And this week, they're splitting everything up into a week 3, week 4 type thing because there's a lot of cutting and sewing for this time period. So they're giving us a couple weeks to get it done because there's just a lot, and it's very nice of them to do this. Okay, so these are the 4 6-inch squares that the 4 piles of 6-inch squares that we cut for this particular week. Now, what we are going to do, and I'm going to sort of keep them labeled just for now because the way that we're going to put them together is going to be very specific. So I don't want to get confused or have done the wrong thing or none of that. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to take each square, every single one, and we're going to cut them diagonally this way and diagonally this way. So each one of these 6-inch squares is going to get us 4 triangles. And then once we have all of those, Jelly Bean, what did you bring up here? What is that? For goodness sakes, did you just go to the toilet? You guys, this is Jelly Bean, if you'd never met him. And don't worry, I'm keeping this quilt for myself. Although I do have like a million lint brushes to take all the cat hair off of everything. Jelly Bean is looking for a place to sleep. And right now, Smudgy is sleeping up in his spot. And I don't know why, but for the past like week or so, they've been fighting. So I don't know what happened, but it's like I'm living in a house of teenagers. So now Jelly Bean, he just got down and he found his secondary spot that he likes. So let's move on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we are told to put together the H and, or sorry, is this the N? Is the N. The N and the J triangles are going to go together, and then the O and the M triangles are going to go together. And then once we have those all put together, then we're going to put one of the NJ triangles to the OM triangles. And then next week, we're going to be organizing them and sewing them together in a very specific pattern. Okay, so that way, so in order for us not to get confused, or let me rephrase, in order for me not to get confused, I'm going to do the N and the J first. That way I have the O and the M waiting for the next step, and I know that I'm putting everything together, not only like it's supposed to be, but also in the correct order, because there's like when we're connecting the N and the J, the N is going to go on the left and the J is going to go on the right. And I just, listen, I'm sure I could get it right, but I just don't want to be confused. So I'm going to hold off on the M and O, okay? And I'm going to do the N and the J first. And there are 11 of each of these, okay, all of them. So the first thing I'm going to do is all the cutting for the N and the J. And, you know, I'll just let you watch. And that's if I can, you know, ever get my cutting table to myself. Jelly Bean, what are you doing, baby? Mommy needs to clean off the table. I know. Mommy's got a huge giant mess as usual. Do you guys have a messy space that you're working in? I have to tell you, I am probably one of the messiest people. And another confession, I don't like it. Like, I do not like it. And I wish I could somehow figure out a way to just, but I have too many things going on, I think. Okay, Jelly Bean, baby, I know, I love you, sweetheart. Come over here. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to keep my little N guy over here so that I don't forget. And I personally, let's see, do I want to try to do like 2 at a time? Let's try doing like 2 at a time, because the sewing is going to take forever. So if we can save just a tad bit of time on cutting, that might be good. Let's see. All right. Now, personally, I will take the time to get them perfectly on top of each other. I always do. Okay, so I could use the side here. So if you're worried about getting it, like what I'm going to do going forward, just full disclosure, I'm just going to put my one end here, one end over there, and cut. I'm not going to like sit here and measure every single time. However, if you are way more perfectionist than I am, which is, you know, pretty good, you'll just take one of these 45-degree lines right here on your ruler, and you can line it up against the side of your square. And then if you pull this line down until you see that you're right at that corner, then you're gonna know. Of course, I'm too high up. There it is. Then you're gonna see, and of course I've moved it, that it's gonna go all the way down to the side over here, and you'll know that that's directly it. But I mean, honestly, I can eyeball that part. So I'm just going to put my ruler down there, and all you want to do is just make sure that you're just a tad bit over to the left, just to make up for the width of your rotary blade. Okay, again, I'm doing 2 right now. And then I'm going to pick directly up slowly so that it doesn't move. And then I'm going to do the other side, or the other diagonal. Okay. And now I have the first 4 for 2 of the squares. And I'm going to put my little triangles that I'm cutting here right next to my end so I know. Listen, if you are like completely just crazed about it, you know you're not going to get it wrong. The minute that you get all cocky about it, like, oh, I don't need that, that's the exact moment I'm going to make all these mistakes. I'm telling you, it happens to me every time. That's my number one thing. He's coming up again. Can you believe this? My coffee is going to go everywhere. That's my fault. I need to put it over here. Jelly Bean, what you doing, baby? Why don't you just go up there and fight with Mr. Smudgy? Go on, just go up there and fight with him. There he goes. You might hear a tussle, I'm telling you. Every once in a while, they do actually sleep together peacefully. But then, other times they don't. See, there's already a fight. Jelly Bean, what are you doing to Smudgy? Jelly Bean! Hey! Come on, go. He was there first. If you were there first, I'd make him get down. Come on, I know. You can't slay up here with Mommy. Thank you, sweetheart. Okay. Okay, so now I have my N fabric and my J fabric, and we are going to sew these together with the N on the left and the J on the right. And the way that we are going to do it is we are going to take it with the longest part of the triangle to the outside left and the outside right. Okay, so we are going to put them together like that, which means we are going to fold them right sides together. and then have a 1/4 inch stitch line straight down here. Now, my preference is always to start on a straight line instead of a diagonal if possible. So I would flip this over and then sew from here and do it that way. But that's how we are going to sew all of these together. So let's do that. Okay, so I have finished putting together my NJ triangles, and we are now going to be putting together our OM triangles. We're going to be doing it in the exact same way. We're going to have the long part of the triangle on the outsides of each one. So we're going to be putting them together this way. As you can see, I have already done my cutting, which is something that I did on camera for these, and so on these I'm just going to have you sort of watch me as I mark my seams. So that's what I'm going to do. If you don't mark your seams, then you are ready to head over to your sewing machine and start putting these together. You will flip this one over, right sides together, and this angle right here is where you want your seam allowance to go. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished marking all my seams, and just as an aside, for those of you who wonder why I do this, it's just a preference. So you can simply use your 1/4 inch foot if that's what you would prefer to do. And this activity took me about 15 minutes. So I don't think it took that long, and it's just something that I prefer to do. So we are going to take these and, well, when they're like this, they're going to go together properly, and then you're going to flip them over this way, and then here is where you sew your seam. So let's head over to the sewing machine. Okay, so here are our triangles that we are going to sew together to make one bigger triangle. And I'm going to chain piece these. So what that means is I'm going to sew them all in a row, and you will see what I'm doing as we go. Okay guys, so I'm back with both halves of the squares that we're going to be making, and this is the direction that we are to sew them together, and we are sewing them all together the same way. So now that I have them nestled up next to each other like that, I could probably move these. I'm probably going to do like this though, just so that I always remember. Wait, I'm going to do it like this. Did I do that right? No, M goes over there. Hold up. N goes over here. J O M. I'm pretty sure that's right. Nope. M O. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave them there just so that just in case, but I'm all set. So what we're going to do now is we just need to sew both halves together and get them all ready. So I'm going to pull one of each down, and I did make sure that I pressed my seams that way and that way. So when I flip it over, right sides together, the seams themselves are going to nestle into each other. So you can kind of feel it. Like if you just kind of run, and you want to make sure, this is important too, you want to make sure that your seams are running together all the way down. Because if it's skewed one way or another, your thing will be crooked, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure it all the way down it's up against each other. And then you can sort of manipulate it a little bit if you have to. And don't worry, we are going to be trimming the blocks down. So it doesn't have to be completely perfect because we will be making them perfect. But you still want to, you know, do the best you can. Now, if you are just using your 1/4 inch foot, that's fine. And you are now ready to go. And so the 1/4 inch seam allowance right down this seam here. I'm going to go ahead and mark mine, and when I come back, I will have all these squares put together and ready to go. Okay, so I'm back and I have my squares all done, and this is the direction that we were supposed to attach them, press them, all that sort of thing. So now at this point, we are going to trim all 44 blocks down to 4.5 inch squares. Okay, so I'm going to scooch that over for a minute, and I'm sure you guys can hear life going on over here. I got the laundry going in the back. My husband has been working from home for like 6-7 weeks. I've lost count at this point, and so he's off having a conference call. Hopefully you can't hear that. But we're fighting for space. Not that we have a small house, you know, it's not like it's so small or anything like that. We just, our workspace is in the same space. So anyway, I'm gonna go over the first 1 or 2 with you, and then I will just speed through. Okay, so we're gonna take the first block, and oops, just one. And I pressed toward the red. So I'm going to put my red fabric to the top left, and I'm going to take the Bloc logo, and I'm going to put that to the bottom right. And then I can lock this on right there. Oops, is it getting it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay, guys. So I just recorded a little portion of me doing some cutting using the Bloc lock with these squares. Now, regardless of whether you are using a Bloc lock or a regular ruler, here's what I just found, because I think these 4 I have done a pretty terrible job on. This one might be okay, because I think this is when I discovered the problem. But then I have 3 of them that are just terrible. And let me tell you what I just discovered. I sure hope you are watching this before you do this, unless you're like, you know, I mean, seriously, I've been sewing for over 20 years, and I made the mistake because I'm just trusting the Bloc lock, which is fine. It's fine. It's just I wasn't really thinking. And so here's the thing. Because we are making these squares, and it's not like it's just a half and half anymore, right? Now we have the 4 sections. So you have to take into consideration that you have 2 junctions. Okay, so that means you can't just place your Bloc lock willy-nilly, make a cut, and then go to the other side and make the other cut, and it's all pretty. It's not going to work that way this time. What you need to do is measure your blocks however it came out. Mine have all come out pretty much to 5.25 inches. I need to cut them down to 4.5 inches. which comes out to 6/8 of an inch. I need to take half of that off each side. Otherwise, it'll turn out like this, where one side is smaller than this obviously bigger side. Do you see what happened? Hopefully I'm like zooming in. Let me try to get that out of your way so you can just see this. So that's a huge mistake. Okay, so hopefully I have gotten to you in time. Or you're way smarter than me and you already knew all this. Okay, so here's what we have to do. And by the way, if your blocks came out much bigger or much smaller than mine, you just need to do the math. I know that sounds horrible, but you're going to have to. Because what you're going to need to do is, however much larger your block is than what it needs to go down to, you need to cut off half of that on each side. Okay? All right. Here we go. So I've got this is the side that I pressed to. So my red is going to go to the top left. My Bloc Lock logo is going to go to the bottom right. I'm going to set my Bloc Lock logo, or Bloc Lock ruler down. And what I want to do is, since mine are 5 1/4, and so here's where my block is for the most part. I mean, honestly, you know how ragged everything is, so it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be way better than this guy, okay? All right, so since I know that I'm pretty much right there, and my block overall is 6/8 of an inch larger than it needs to be, that means that I need to take 3/8 of an inch off each side. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3/8, and I'm going to bring my Bloc Lock ruler down to that line right there. And if I go over here where I was at 5 1/4 and then go 1, 2, 3, that line is right where it needs to be as well. So this is where you want to make your cut. All right, so then we're going to turn this around. And I'm just going to bring it down to my 4 1/2. And as you can see, now that I'm doing it properly, I'm going to be trimming right on the edge of each corner like it should be. Oops, I'm okay, guys. Didn't get me, promise. Okay, so now can you see? And you can do a check, which I did. You're going to go 4 1/2 inches, and here is your diagonal line down the middle. So I'm going to put it down on 4 1/2. I got 4 1/2 here, 4 1/2 there, and look, my diagonal line is going straight down the middle. Turn it. I've got my 4 1/2 here, 4 1/2 there, diagonal line straight down the middle. Again, 4 1/2, 4 1/2, diagonal straight down the middle. And the last one, four and a half, diagonal down the middle. So now that's how it is done properly. Okay, so let me show you that again. I'm putting my red to the top left because that's the direction I pressed my fabric. Bloc Lock logo, bottom right. I want to go to, see, it's at 5 1/4, and then I want 1, 2, 3, so it's the line right before the 5. There we go. That one too, I'll probably pull it down just a little bit because I think I've got it a little bit off. Okay, that looks good. That's 3/8 of an inch. Twist it around. Now I'm going to bring it down to the 4 1/2. And again, my corners are perfect again. Okay, guys, third time's the charm. I'm going to do it one more time for you guys. The side that you press toward is on the top left. Bloc logo, bottom right. Butt it up against there. I'm going to bring it down to the little line just before the 5. Okay. Make my cut. Turn it around and bring it down to the 4.5. Hold on. Everything, oops, I think I just bumped it. I just bumped it. And everything looks good. Okay, so there you go. I hope you got that. I'm going to keep doing these and you can just follow along. And hopefully I did keep my scraps. So hopefully I have enough that I can redo these 3. Here's hoping. Okay, I have finished trimming down all my squares, and I only actually have one that is off by like 1/4 inch on like one side, maybe like 2 little corner sides. So honestly, that piece, guys, I'm just gonna like put on a corner, like the one all the way like to the left or one all the way to the right, because I figure whatever happens with that, I can bury it in because it's not that huge of a deal and I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so all the rest of them look awesome. Now guys, here's the thing. I have laid these out. But I think what I'm going to do is let me take these. I did lay them out, but I'm thinking about it twice where I'm thinking, you know, I should probably do one at a time to show you guys what we're going to do. Because we're going to be making 4 rows and each row is completely different. Okay? And it's very important that you pay attention to how everything's laid out, because it's going to affect how your quilt looks if you don't get it exactly right. I don't mean to like freak everybody out, but really it's true. They've had it, they've put it in this way, and they've laid out each one for us so that when we're done, since it's a mystery to us and they know how to tell us what to do so that when it's done, it all looks beautiful. Okay, so according to the sheet of paper, let's do the first row. We're going to want I'm just going to go by the blue gingham, okay, because it stands out. But if you look really close at these pieces, it's each fabric as it's supposed to be. So here is the first one where we want the quilt block on top, the blue gingham on the left, red dots on the bottom, and the red flowers on the right. Okay, so we'll put that here. And then the next one is going to be red flowers, red dots, blue gingham, and the quilting piece. Okay, so we'll put that right next to it. The next piece is going to be blue gingham, and put it in the middle. Blue gingham, the quilt piece, red flowers, red dots. The next one is going to be red flowers, red dots, blue gingham, and the quilt block. The next one is going to be blue gingham, quilt block, red rose, and red dot. And number 6 is red flower, red dot, blue gingham, and the quilt block. All right, so that's all I can fit across here. But basically, we're going to go 12 all the way across. And guys, look at it. You're making a square of the red flowers. Then you're making a square of the blue gingham. And then a square of the red flowers. And a square of the blue gingham, and you'll continue that all the way down, and you'll have 12 blocks in a row. So it'll be exactly the same layout all the way down. So let's get that one done, and then we'll come back and we'll do the second row. We're going to do each row one at a time together. Okay, so here is my first one. I'll just make sure I'm showing this to you right. Yeah, okay. And so here is my row 1. There are 12 blocks, and all arranged in the way that they asked us to on the sheet of paper. So I'm going to scooch this over for now. And now we're going to make row 2. And row 2 will have the red flower to the left. And then the gingham is going to match up together right here. And then the red flower will match up together. And it'll repeat the same way all the way down. And again, 12 blocks. Okay, so this is just 5. You're going to continue down all the way and connect 12 all together. And once we have those connected, I will come back, show you the row 2, and then we will get started on row 3. Okay, here's my row 2, and there it is, all sewed together. So I'm going to scooch that over. And now we are on row 3. So my row 3 is going to have, let's see, do I want to do that one? Yeah, let's do that one. I'm going to put the red dots to the left. And then I'm going to match the two they're calling these the quilting squares. So I'm going to put the two quilting squares together, and then the red dots together, and the quilting squares, and the red dots. Okay, and it's going to continue just like that for 10 squares. So the first two rows had 12 squares in them, and this row has 10. So you're going to just continue this along in the same exact pattern for 10 squares. And as soon as I've got all these put together, I'll come back and we will put together the final row. Okay, so here is row 3. Row 3 is finished, so I will scooch that over. And the last row, row number 4, we are going to take the quilted square to the left, and then we're going to put a red dot next to the other red dot, and we're going to put the two quilt squares together, the two dots together, and again the two quilt squares together. And then we're going to continue all the way down with 10 squares again. So we had the first row was 12 squares, the second row was 12 squares, the third row 10 squares, and then row 4 also 10 squares. So as soon as I have this done, I'll come back and we will be finished with weeks 3 and 4. Okay guys, we have finished all 4 rows. I'm pretty happy with mine. I fully admit that I was pretty much sewing at 100 miles an hour and trying to get them all done. And I really enjoyed these. I think that they were a lot of fun to put together, and I really can't wait to see them on the quilt. And I can't wait to see all the ones that you guys have made with the different fabric and see how they came out. And so until next time, happy sewing.